You're listening to Coffee, Chaos, and ProdSec. I'm Cameron Walters, the application security and DevSecOps builder trying to automate the world. With me is Kurt Hendel, a battle-tested security architect with a zero-trust worldview. We turn real-world security chaos into conversations that actually matter. So grab your cup of coffee and let's travel back in time to the original recording. Coffee, Chaos, and ProdSec starts now. Alrighty, and we're live. We're here. We made it.
Got the right button that time.
I did hit the right button. Yeah, I hit the streaming button when we started this instead of record.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Rough start this week.
Yeah, right. Welcome everybody to Coffee, Chaos, and ProdSec. So I think we have a pretty good, fun agenda. We are already talking as we were prepping before this. I'm like, the whole time I was like, we should just click record, shouldn't we? We should just start this because we're already talking about exactly what we're supposed to talk about.
Yeah, it was fun. Just getting ready to go.
Yeah. How are you doing today?
I could use a nap, if I'm being honest. And it was an early day.
Yeah.
What about you? I got coffee for that though. I'm ready.
I got coffee for that. We'll get into that. But yeah, my pet bunny has woke me up every night at like 5 or 6 because he wants hay and he wants like to hang out. Every night. Last night he woke me up at 3, 6, 7. So I'm running on fumes today, dude.
I have a little human, but she doesn't wake me up. She waits until she hears me walk by her room in the morning, and then next thing you know, the door's open and she's following me downstairs as I seek out coffee.
Yeah, no.
The new thing is that she has to watch me make coffee now, so she'll be making it for me in no time.
There you go. You're on barista.
Can't wait.
At 6, it was both bunnies. Both bunnies were at the gate asking for attention. I was just like, guys, what do you need? And then they both wanted hay. So they already had a mountain of hay.
It's tough having those little fur balls that love you.
I know, right? But yeah, so I, in the spirit of how I feel and, coffee, I have my good mug here.
Nice.
It's a good one.
I gotta invest in some more fun mugs, man. I just got the usual. This coffee I made like hours ago, and I was like, I gotta save coffee for the podcast, or I'm gonna show up with like water and I'm gonna get fired. Like,
it's facts. I mean, at least you're in dress code right now.
Yeah, I wore the right shirt today. Like I said, I was getting a little cool in the Northwest here, but so I had to break out the long sleeves. But this coffee, because of my wonderful Yeti cup, has not gotten cold, and I'm ready to go.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm just drinking we bought a big bag of beans from Costco. They're just Kirkland French roast beans.
It would have been better if the brand was Big Bag of Beans, but all right.
Yeah.
But future business prospect for me, I guess. I still got Blue Bottle, but I switched it up. I got the bold instead of the espresso, and maybe that's why I'm a little crazy today.
There you go. Yeah, my wife remade her pumpkin spice syrup. So it's much more pumpkin spice, so I can definitely taste it. And then we've been doing nightcaps. We've been doing decaf coffee at night. All right, like right before bed as we're hanging out. We just finished Wednesday, the series Wednesday, from Addams Family. The season 2 is so good. So we finished that, and now we're watching What We Do in the Shadows, the TV series, and we've been just enjoying some coffee right before bed.
Yeah, I get some decaf beans. Next Costco trip.
There you go. So, well, the topic today is war stories, the most interesting attacks we've witnessed. I think there's some debate on this topic between the both of us around where we kind of want to take it. But for the first one, I wanted to talk about Log4j.
Do it.
I think we were at the same company at the same time, right?
We were. That's where we became friends.
Yeah, and we were both like engineers at that time. No longer, now we're directors, and then we were, more hands-on keyboard kind of guys.
It's just a lowly architect, drawing pretty pictures.
There you go.
Squares and lines, man. Good at it.
Connect the dots.
Yep. Been doing it since I was like 3.
There you go. Training your daughter the same. Another threat modeling expert in the works.
That's right. It will not solve Log4j. That's why we have wonderful people like you, and I'm just there to help.
Yeah. Well, do you want to recount where were you on Log4j?
I I don't even remember. I probably just a regular day. I was definitely living back in the Chicago area. I remember that because it was before I moved out to the Northwest. And I think it's one of those things where you just wake up and you're kind of like, what? I got to wake up in the morning and go to work. And next thing you know, you're kind of browsing the phone in bed before you actually get up because who doesn't like to procrastinate in the morning, especially if you don't have kids? I didn't have a kid at the time. Um, and then I see this Log4j, something's going on. What the hell is happening? It's like, whoa, everyone's getting popped. Like, this is big. We never seen anything like it before. And so I got up real quick and I was just kind of like, well, I wonder what's going to happen when I log in today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It was, I think, a little more chaotic for you because I know you guys in AppSec were leading the charge, and I just showed up, and you're like, "You're finally here." I'm like,
Right.
yeah,
Welcome to the party.
where you been, dude?
It's true. It's true. It is crazy. I mean, I wouldn't say as crazy as some of my other friends' stories, right? It wasn't like I think a lot of people were subjected to, and this kind of leads to like the whole theme of what we're trying to talk about here, like war stories, like the stories of being an app or in cybersecurity. Um, we'll get to the part where maybe it feels a little over dramatized, but um, I don't know, like not to toot my horn, but like I at that time had built out a overhauled the AppSec program at that company into a spot that I felt really comfortable, right? We had an amazing DevOps team. I love it when you work for a company that has a really good DevOps team, really good structures of your pipelines. To where when I got there, it was I got hands on keyboard, built out all the GitLab actions or runners that executed every day. So when Log4j hit, at least within our code bases, I could, within hours of the IOC or within minutes of the IOCs hitting our SCA platform, the software composition analysis, which stands for third party lighting code, bam, defined it. It was able to pick it up pretty quick. To where my boss is like, how long, how like we need to sync in like 2 hours, can you tell me where we're at? And I was like, we're done. We're not
Fixed
vulnerable.
already, dude. There's no fire.
Yeah, I was like, boom, there's no, and he's like, how certain are you? I'm like, 100% certain. Like, I just weeks before had gone through and indexed and inventoried all our code and, made sure we were scanning everything. And I was already expanding outside of production code, any code that supported anything. And I was starting to already onboard. So I was like, the risk exposure is pretty low, man. I'm very, very confident. And I mean, even after that day, the whole week we spent looking for any additional things that we would miss, didn't find any. So,
Yeah.
we were pretty stoked. It was actually a pretty mild thing. I think everybody else I knew, their heads were on fire. And I also feel bad for like maybe the GRC or the SOC people because they were like, do you remember they were at like messaging every vendor, like trying to figure
Yeah.
out what vendors use Java, what vendors use Java, what vendors use Java. And they're just blasting emails out to all the different tools or things, right? That was pain.
I mean, even working at a software company though, like we were getting that too because people would have the software deployed in their environment and it'd be like, "Are we vulnerable because of you?" And it's nah, we're good.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so calm, like Cameron always is. Like my hair can't be set on fire. Got that cool confidence all the time.
Mm.
But yeah, I think it was interesting to keep reading about how it evolved over time, and it's also scary to think that there are still places in the world that are vulnerable to Log4j,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that was back in what 2021.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even remember the year.
Yeah, I have to Google it.
I'm gonna do that right now.
Was it like 3 years and then 4 years ago? Yeah, so 2021. Wow.
Time goes quick, man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
November 2021.
It felt like it was the end of
So
2021. So
that's actually interesting. So I now I'm like thinking about where I was when this happened. I was on paternity leave. My daughter had been born, and so I was waking up thinking, "Oh, it's going to be an interesting day for AppSec." I don't have to work today. No one called me.
Yeah, right.
I was following whatever I could on Slack, but I was also sleep deprived for other reasons.
That's fair. That's fair. I can see why it's a little fuzzy.
Yeah.
For me, it was clear day, right? Because like it hit, and I think you knew the gravity of the situation, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like sometimes in your life you have those, moments where you have, when you revisit it and think about it in the past, there's perfect clarity. Like Log4j,
Yeah.
it feels like one of those days where I knew I worked, but I was like, I only worked a normal day, a normal 8 hours, signed off at a normal time. Sure, there was a lot of meetings, a lot of, writing reports, documenting my evidence on why we were secure so that we could pass that along so we could communicate that to customers in formalized ways, right? But again, that only took like a day, and the rest of the week was just repeating the same message. We're not vulnerable. At least the code that we deploy is not vulnerable.
I think there's lessons to be learned there, right? Like depending on how you approach it. So like in your case, the lesson learned is if you actually prioritize building your pipelines and integrating security into your pipelines every step of the way, you can actually get control of these situations fairly quickly without the panic. And then you spend time kind of doing the crisis management publicly for anyone who has questions for you. Or this is even getting easier. There's a lot of vulnerability disclosure programs that use third party tools that you could just publish this on your trust center and your customers can go see that and be like, cool, we're not vulnerable. Thanks to them. On to the next one. Um, but if you don't, or you have a big legacy environment, like it's hair on fire, all hands on deck. We don't know where we're exposed. Scan the whole environment, figure it, figure it out on the fly. And then you spend the next 2 weeks just in panic incident response mode.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these are the type of moments where I think security teams as well as companies realize, do we have a good program running, right? Because these things really mattered to customers at that time. I mean, they still do these days. But like when these level of events hit, right? you're Everybody asks like, are you vulnerable and how quickly you can respond is that window's getting smaller and smaller, especially like as customers start to bake it into their security parts of their contracts or
Yeah.
MSAs, right? Like it's interesting how we have to make sure that our programs are not just doing kind of like checkbox security.
Right. Oh, that grinds our gears. So we're not going to go there because I know I've talked about that and ranted before. So don't do that. If you do it the right way, all's well in the world. And I think to your point, like we've had to get faster and faster over the years. And I mean, we're talking about a 4-year window now. Log4j was in 2021. We've gotten faster since then. And I mean, AI is all the rage. It's accelerating everything now. And so the expectation is that we're moving at that speed and in 0 days. And there was a blog posted not too long ago. I think I sent it to you where someone was like -1. Like it takes negative time for bad actors to start exploiting vulnerabilities now. And so 0 day is even kind of put at risk, which is crazy to think about. So yeah.
I mean, you can take these like proof of concepts, throw it in some kind of AI, right? Like Claude or something, right? And use it to build your payload.
Yeah.
And from there, it's just execution, right? So it's kind of trivial. It's a question to ask. I know this is kind of all really off topic, but around vulnerabilities and classifying vulnerabilities, the question really comes into: do we start classifying vulnerabilities and less around is there a payload or known exploit, because the bar entry, right, used to be very high, right? There was like this long-term thought process that script kiddies will use, like Metasploit or something, right? And that's how they'll like, if the payload's pre-generated, it's higher risk because then the bar to entry is lower, which means like script kiddies can get in there, people who are less technical. But AI is really breaking down, I would say, that thought process. And as I've been sitting for a while thinking about, risk reclassification, severity, all these different things. Is like known exploit or known, payload a valid field anymore to even consider in cybersecurity when you're thinking about vulnerabilities, right? I don't know. What's your opinion?
I always like having a known exploit is one thing, right? But we have a whole ton of people in the world that are tracking whether vulnerabilities are actively being exploited, which I think is a more valuable perspective to say if you're exposed to a vulnerability and it's actively under exploit by certain threat actors or different groups that are being tracked by so many different entities that publish this information constantly, like 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Focus on that, because if you're open to it and it's actively being exploited, well, you should fix that, because the last thing you want to do is them to find it and take advantage of it. And now you've been popped. Just because it has an exploit and there's a known payload doesn't mean you're going to get hit by it. It means that someone figured it out. Like, this is where it gets blurry, right? Because there's a lot of vulnerabilities that get published by academia, which the researchers of the world are amazing. They can find stuff that you would never even think to find. But the complexity of the attacks is often so high that real attackers aren't going to ever use it unless they're like nation state level and we're going to talk about like Mr. Robot and whatever. Like, that's not real. It's often about simplicity. And I had this conversation with the CISO recently of like, attackers just look for the weak spot. They want to find the weak point in the armor and they want to use that and don't want it to be too hard. If it's too hard, move on to the next target. So active attacks, much higher priority than just simply, there's a payload we know about that could happen. Great. Is it happening in the world? If not, well, maybe you can take it down a notch.
Yeah. I remember before like the war against APIs happened, and I exaggerate around that. But there was a website I would look at all the time. It was CVE Trends, and that thing would
I
hammer
remember
like,
this one.
yeah, it would hammer like Twitter and Reddit and a couple other sources and aggregate like CVEs that, or yeah, CVEs that a lot of people are talking about, and it would show like, hey, right now these are the top CVEs people are talking about, right? And so then you could kind of think about like, well, if a lot of people are talking, like in the last like 2 hours, 5 hours, 200,000 people have talked about this one CVE. That's probably something we should be checking in, just looking at it, right? And so it was really
Yeah.
interesting information. Super bummer about how Twitter and a lot of the companies started to notice that like we might need to lock down our APIs and do less free stuff or increase, because it's very expensive at the end of the day, which is a bummer. But it was a really cool site,
Yeah.
and I loved looking at it. It was one of those moments too. I regretted giving it to my CISO, because he'd look at it and then every time he looked at it, he'd be like, "Hey, what are we doing about the CVE?" And I'll be like, "What CVE? That's about
Funny.
like Oracle or something. We don't even have Oracle, dude. Did you even look up the CVE?"
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that happens too. Like, I work on the customer front and get questions all the time. And a lot of times they'll be like, well, this new CVE came out. Like, are we vulnerable to it? And I'm like, that's not, it's like, what are you even talking about? That's not even related remotely to what we do. So no, like, I can appreciate their concern and I'm kind of like, where is this coming from? But they don't have the same information or perspective that I have. So I just kind of push that down and be like, okay, they're concerned. It's not an issue. This is an easy one. This is a layup. Like, the easiest thing I'm going to do all day. No, we are not vulnerable. Rest assured, your stuff is protected and your data is safe with us. Like, fire away. I did something today.
I love those ones. I was doing something similar just yesterday. There was a customer asking something, and I was like, "Didn't we put out a tech article on how we're not vulnerable to this?" So it was
Yeah.
really easy. So, but that jumps me into the next one, which is really around expectations versus reality, right? Like, I think Hollywood, as you were saying, right? I don't know if you want to take it from here, but I think there's some hype that maybe needs to be de-hyped or grounded in reality a little.
Like, talk about attacks that we've experienced. Like, talk about pen testing in the real world and the stuff you see on TV. Like, I had to wear a fake credential and get past security and walk into the building and plug in a USB key to the server rack or someone's computer. And next thing you know, my attacker buddy Cameron sitting in the room at home in the dark, like he is right now, is in. He popped the place. We got all your information. That's like nation state level stuff, man. Like for anyone who's seen Mr. Robot, there's an episode where they do this and they give the girl the USB key and she has to infiltrate Evil Corp and go up in the elevators and there's no one there and plug in the USB to the one server rack that's sitting in the middle of a room. I'm sorry, data centers don't look like that. And from there, it's like someone has the back door and they can do whatever they're gonna do. Like it, that's not reality at all. Like I'm sorry, it's not as cool as they like to make it seem. And the reality of it all is I get a phone call from Cameron on a Tuesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon saying, hey, an API key was discovered in GitHub. We got to go tell them to close it down and remove it and make sure that credential isn't valid anymore. Like that's a real incident.
Yeah. It's definitely a big difference, especially like around the attack vectors that are versus like academia, so like a researcher found, right?
Yeah.
That brings me back to like I think it was like Heartbleed, right? The ones that are not Heartbleed. What are the Intel ones that are specific?
Side channel attacks.
Yeah,
There's
like
there's Ret Bleed and
yeah,
there's
Ret Bleed.
so many of them now.
But
Like
they're
I
all
get
like
emails about those and I'm like, I don't know. We don't use that process.
right? Like it's such a small, like interesting attack vector that was really nuanced, cool, but nuanced.
It's really cool. It's theoretical though. Like you need physical access to the hardware and you need specialized hardware to do these things. And you're going to extract a key from the processor, like from the registers inside of a CPU. And then use that for bad. I'm sorry, like I could send 100 phishing emails in 5 minutes, go get a new cup of coffee, and I'll probably land one. Like there's again the path of least resistance.
Triggered me here. So my dad called me yesterday, and he was a little story here. He calls me and he's like, "Hey, like I was watching this, news thing, and they talked about AIs coming after like you and your credentials or your passwords and XYZ." And I was like, "I gotta call Cameron, right?" And so we're chatting, and he's like, "Is AI gonna like?" He uses a password manager because I've got him on one. And he's like, are they gonna is AI gonna make it to like where it can like break into that and get in there and X, Y? And I was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, I mean, maybe it could help explain. It's, what are you watching? I was like, no, you don't have to worry about that. Like, here are all the other concerns you should be around AI, around credentials, right? Like, you should be much more, do your due diligence on like any emails you get or anything you click, because AI can now really make really good emails, and maybe countries their English is like, the second language, third language, whatever it is, not even really speak it. AI can now translate whatever they're trying to say and put it into a way that looks essentially, flawless. And so you got to be smart about what you're clicking there, because no longer are the new nuances of things are there anymore, right? Like you can't just be like, oh, is it have bad English or it says something weird, right? Even the demands, right? A lot of these things are starting to ditch the demands. Still there, still very much there. Demands and putting that pressure on you while you're there, but it's only increasing, right? I was like, those are the things you should be concerned about. I was other crazy side. I was telling him I was reading an article, I think on Reddit or somewhere, where somebody was interviewing and like the person was like on the camera, did the first like 2 minutes, and then flawlessly transitioned to an AI, and the AI did the rest of it, the interview, and the interviewer was like 45 minutes into the conversation. I asked him, I was like, what is this? And then the person said, and then it said, I was like, something's off. And so and then I asked again, and he was like, there's like the person said the same thing, word for word again. And he's like, I'm going to do it one more time. Did it one more time again. And then the call shut down and the person left because it like the gig was up. Right. And that was like a super deep fake.
That to me.
Yeah. I was like, that's if that story is true, right? Like, even if it's not true, that's the future we're headed. Right. That is literally the future we're headed. So, mind blown craziness.
It's crazy. I read that yesterday. You sent it to me, and I'm sitting there reading it, and I was like, this is kind of crazy. But the context, to take it a step further, was the person who was interviewing for an AI engineer role, and I'm like, that's like part of the portfolio,
that's like
man.
Super
like
meta.
Right, like you're interviewing for the AI engineer job, and you just made AI be you and do the interview. Like, hey man, I want to talk to this guy for real now.
I know, right? It's
It's
so
kind of
true.
crazy, but I mean, it's like on the other side of it, we have to be careful with the AI tools too, because they're getting integrated everywhere. Like I could plug any of these AI tools into my Gmail account now. Like Google makes it easy. If you pay for the premium, you get Gemini, and now it can do all kinds of cool stuff with your Gmail and your calendar or whatever, or like Perplexity I've used, and it's like, do you want to integrate with your mailbox? And I say, absolutely not. I don't want someone prompt injecting and stealing my emails. Like that's the reality. We've had these zero click vulnerabilities and out in the wild. And again, it's like these things all sound cool and they happen to somebody, right? But they get discovered and fixed really quick. Like um 365 Copilot from or Copilot 365 from Microsoft had a zero click vulnerability. You never heard about it until like it was patched months ago and Microsoft didn't do a disclosure and people were mad about it because we get mad about everything in the world today. Um, but I mean, this has come up a couple of times where you can bury an instruction somewhere and an LLM just reads it and executes because by default, LLMs trust everything. And so they just blindly execute the instructions. Or I always find it funny reading on Reddit the like recruiting hell or whatever the ones are where people are like, I created my resume and put instructions to the AI in white text, very tiny, and hid it somewhere. And they're like, I got the interview and all this stuff because I tricked their AI into selecting me as a candidate.
Mhm.
So it's like these prompt injection attacks are still very real, or like crafting a Jira ticket. You've integrated AI through Atlassian's MCP server, and it's got instructions buried in there, so you can trick it into doing whatever you want it to do. So it's people are getting very creative with how they get to your data, and since AI is all the rage, they're they're using that channel to their advantage too because it's very new, it's evolving, it's the best practices are still being established. We don't have the recipes we have for everything else.
Yeah. Well, to bring it back, you know, with all that, like I feel like you just hyped us all up about all these attack vectors, and things that are happening. But in reality, right, when an incident happens or some kind of thing happens, right, the reason I want to bring this up, right, I was talking to some students and a lot of them keep telling me like, I want to be an incident response. I want to be a hacker. I want to do these things. And I was like, do you really understand what that means? Like the mundane side of it, I think a lot of people don't realize. Every now and then you see on Reddit, like today, I was reading an article, someone saying, I'm a SOC analyst. Is this really it? I was told there was going to be a lot more going on here. And every now and then you see the same thing about like pen testing, right? Is
Yeah,
this really it? It's the same company. I just talk to them in 6 months and do the same tests, the same vulnerabilities. This is
yeah,
is
it's
is
like, are
this
you
the
being
limit?
catfished or punked right now?
Yeah,
I
I think a
mean,
lot of people don't realize that like even incidents when they
it's
happen, it's not like this cool thing. If anything, I say it's
right.
it's it's kind of nerve-wracking and scary and that what are the depending on what happens, there's some major costs and implications that can happen to, your financial well-being.
Yeah, I mean the goal is to not have incidents, right?
So,
So like the sock is not designed to be an exciting place. Now, there are a lot of cool technologies out in the world, but if you want to go into being a SOC analyst or being a pen tester, like talk to people in the industry already, get their real world perspective on it. Like, yeah, there are cool pen testing roles where they do physical pen testing or just end to end, and they carry out they do some wacky stuff to say the least. But I mean, they're not doing it all the time. It's not what you see on TV or in the movies, and especially in the sock. Again, like incidents, you don't want them to happen. So they don't happen all the time. And when they do, I mean, it's fight or flight kicks in for everybody. You have to be level headed and think through what's the problem, what's the solution, and how like gather all the information. In the end, all you're doing is writing a report like, and of course, you can use AI to do that and speed yourself up. But I mean, we go through school doing that our entire lives until we start our professional career. Like, do you want that to be your life? Of I did the investigation, I pulled the data points, and now I got to summarize it in this 30-page report that management's not even going to read. Like, does that sound exciting? I mean, I remember the first time I visited a real sock, I was like, this is going to be amazing. There's going to be huge screens everywhere, and there's going to be all these people in front of computers, and it's going to be a happening place, man. Nah, it was like four people sitting around drinking coffee. Their monitors weren't even on. Like, they weren't paying attention to anything because they had the sim tuned to respond to things and weed out all the false positives for them. And so they spent a minimal amount of time actually responding to stuff, and they had freed up enough time where they could focus on chatting with each other or learning stuff or building stuff.
So there's a big difference. And I mean, I think a lot of people when they go and talk to students or give presentations, they maybe dramatize or draw,
Yeah.
hype it up, right? They try to get the students super excited, which I get, right? You want to get people excited for this, to get into the field, and but I think at the same time, you maybe lead them to a delusion of what the reality is, right? This is a job. You're gonna come in, you're gonna do your 8 hours. Most of the time, you're not gonna have incidents every day. When I worked in the SOC, I had an incident every maybe once a month, if that. And most of the time, it was like looking at, oh, this is IOC. Is it true? Is it true? Oh, no, it's not. It's false positive. Oh, is
False
this one
positive.
true?
Yeah.
Oh, you talk to the person, start analyzing, oh, another false positive. Oh, another false positive, right? And it's just this kind of whack-a-mole of false positives. It kind of
Yeah.
drills you down after months of doing that.
Yeah. I mean, we're by no means saying like don't do
Yeah.
these roles, right? It's grounded in reality. This is what you're going to end up doing. And so if there's people that have been lifelong security operations analysts because they like doing the investigations, they're very methodical and like the data and whatever. And there's other people that are like, I'm a builder. I want to be an engineer. You could do that in a SOC. You could do it on the AppSec team. You could do it as an architect. There's so many things you can do in security, especially product security. I mean, you get to do it all. Engineering, I mean, that's what it is. At the end of the day, you're a specialized sort of engineer, architect, leader, whatever role you take. And so it's not glamorous the way that it shows up in movies and TV, but it's it's still cool in its own right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's the big thing, right? Is that I remember my first couple of incidents and I was hyped. It was fun. It was cool. I mean, I still when an incident happens, still a little fun, but it's also
Yeah.
a little annoying. And
Yeah.
the excitement's slowly wearing off. But I have a lot of new people on my team, and if anything were to happen, I'm assuming they would be hyped. Right. I know we've had
Yeah.
some false positives in the past and they were getting super excited and they were like, oh man, look, check this out. And then we were like, ruled it
Go
all out.
time.
Right. We ruled it all out. I'm like, oh, it's all false positives. All right. Never mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, when I get a call from the SOC leader and like something's happening, I'm not excited about it. I'm actually rather annoyed because I've got other stuff I'm working on. And then you get that phone call and you're like, there goes my day.
Eh,
And there's been cases where I've been on calls for 12 hours and you're just kind of like you switch from your computer to your phone. And at one point I was on one till like 1 a.m. at some point, and I just switched it to my phone. I was just laying on the couch. It's like, is this over yet? We're just rehashing the same stuff over and over. Like, let's go to bed. We'll wake up tomorrow. We've contained it. Let's finish the report tomorrow and move on with our lives. We know what we need to fix.
it's
It's
true.
it's hard sometimes. It can be draining even, but you have to find ways to strike the balance and figure it out. I mean, security is all about balance. We say this all the time. Sometimes you have a crazy day, sometimes you don't. Same is true when it comes to attacks. If you're, I guess, I don't know if I should say it this way, but if you're lucky enough to encounter one, especially one of the big ones, it's gonna hurt. It might be exciting for the first 5 minutes, but after 24 hours, you're gonna be tired.
Yeah. True. True. And I mean, I don't know. This is something that's kind of slightly different, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. But I think there's even like some for depending on the company work, there can be monetary hits in the sense
Yes.
you like say if you're compensated through stock. security professionals are usually the most well known of a company, or well, they know the most about the company in terms of like intellectual, not intellectual property, but like risk. And that makes
Yeah.
you not be able, maybe not to sell your stock, right? I can't think of the
Yeah.
term that I'm trying to think of.
You know what you're talking about. I can't think of the formal name
I
for
know,
it,
right?
but
I'm blinking, but like there is that side of it, right? There's a it can be even a monetary cost. Sometimes, for example, like you maybe want to sell your stock because you want to build a pool for your family, right? Or something. Incident happens, you might not be able to. You might have to
yeah,
wait, 6 months because you know something that, maybe
you
could
got
hurt the
privileged
company.
information.
Privileged information, yeah. So it's I mean, that's the other downside about it that some people don't think about is that that can happen. And then even if something bad happens, right, you could hurt your company's stock. Layoffs could happen, things could happen. I don't know. It's scary.
Yeah.
I don't.
I mean, it's also crazy too. You mentioned like security people have the most information, right? You know where the risks are. You essentially you know the map. You got the cheat codes. You got the wall hacks, even for anyone who likes first person shooters. Like you know where the skeletons are shoved in the closet, and if someone opens the door, you're all in trouble, right? Like if you're in a regulated environment, that could have real financial implications for the company. And I mean, people lose their jobs over stuff like that all the time. And then on the other side of it, like I've been in that scenario where I have the privileged information. I've had to sign the NDAs. I can't sell my RSUs that I was lucky enough to get, and I was hoping to because the stock was doing great. And well, now I'm stuck for another however long. This wasn't recent. It happened at some point, and it hurts. But I mean, you overcome it, and like I said, it's not as glamorous as the movies and TV make it out to be, but they have to do that so that people are on the edge of their seat and are excited and they think it's cool.
True, true.
Like I even get excited about that stuff, but then I'm sitting there like, yeah, the consultant on the show was embellishing a bit.
Right? You need 10 hands on one keyboard. Everybody's got to type
Yeah.
faster to stop the hacker.
I type like a 4-letter command and it's like, I'm in. I was like, no, Mr.
No,
Robot actually did it pretty well.
they did. They did. I think it's one of the best that at least
Yeah.
shows the most accurate. So then, in the interest of time, what is at least one thing that an incident has taught you?
It's a hard question. I've learned a lot from incidents, especially the fact that I don't want them. Um, I don't know if I can pick one thing out. It's just
I'll
like,
go first.
yeah,
Uh,
go for it.
I would say about keeping a calm head. When these
Yeah,
things happen, I think a lot of people let their nerves or if you're newer, it's usually excitement, and they begin to overthink or not think clearly on what needs to get done. So
yeah,
I always tell my team when something's happening, I'll actually have them do breathing exercises in the middle of it and be like, all right, everyone, take a deep breath. Let's do a couple deep breaths. Let's ground ourselves, right? Because sometimes they get so hyped and they're going down the wrong holes. They're seeing all these, they see a threat in every vector or everything looks on fire. And I'm like,
yeah,
hey, just take a breath. It's going to be okay.
yeah. I think that stay calm is a key one, and it's the other, I guess, for me, because I'm one of those people where it's like, oh, something happened, and I was like, okay, what? And they're like, why aren't you freaked out right now? I'm like, there's no point. Just tell me what happened and what the problem is. Let's sort this out. So like, slow down. It goes along with that. Like if you have to step back, like zoom out, run a lap, take a lap around the house, do whatever you got to do to burn off that nervous energy that because the adrenaline hit is very real. Um, but then come back to it and collect yourself and say, you know what? It's already happened or it's happening. Now, how do we stop it? First step is always to stop it, right? And then figure out what happened. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to go in a million directions all at once. You can take a logical approach, methodical approach, the team split, divide and conquer. There's another one.
Hmm.
Um, and then I think for me, it's a teachable moment, right? So like an incident happened. It's not like do the lessons learned and say, how do we fix that one thing? It's do the lessons learned and say, we fixed the one thing, but how is this going to impact the rest of my world? Like, how do I get better as a professional, as a incident response person, as an architect, as an AppSec engineer, whatever it may be, to say, when I'm building a security program or I'm implementing new tools or defenses, I can say, well, what are the things I need to be worried about? And now I have the tools in the shed to do that.
Yeah.
Like, that's the stuff they can't teach you in school. So anyone who's hiring security people and wants 5 years of experience for an entry level position, get off the drugs. It takes
That's fair.
experience.
My other one would be practice your incident response, right?
Yeah.
Actually do some tabletop exercises, go through the process, do some formalized reports, go through the whole thing, put a good, decent scenario together, and actually practice and make sure it includes other teams, not just your team. Because this, I feel like in my past, a lot of times when we do these like internal ones, that's just like maybe the AppSec team or something. The second it's like,
Yeah.
oh, we need to talk to another team. What do we do? Who do we talk to? What's going? The whole thing breaks down to where when it's actually happening, again, it breaks down. So actually building out a scenario, maybe you don't have to actually bring the team in, but it's about calling out who would you contact,
Right.
right? Who's your list of people? How would you even find that list, right? If it's part of XYZ product, who's the VP or who's the, security contact should I reach out for once it's confirmed, right? How do we want to break this down? And the only time you really do that is when you go through that repetition. And I think a lot of people, they don't tabletop, they don't practice these
Yeah.
things.
Well, I mean, there's a reason that people say practice makes perfect, right? Like anything you do, you get better by practicing, whether that's security or baseball, football, your favorite sport, golf. I like F1 racing. Unfortunately, they won't give me a car, but I can try, right? Um, but and this is one of the things, just kind of like prepping to be here today to talk to you about this, is your incident response plan. It's not really real until you test it. And tabletops are great. Don't get me wrong. Um, they're generally slow, methodical. Like, definitely test the full scenario, like you're saying. Like, this is what happened. What would you do? Well, I need to contact that team. Okay. What if the team says this or they're not available? What's your next action? You have to continue to progress. And I think there's value in staying with the theme of the title of this podcast. There's value in testing through the chaos. So tabletops are cool. Everyone's calm. We're like, this isn't real. We don't have to experience the chaos and have the fires lit under us and whatever. I think there's value in kind of like what we just talked about. Make people practice having the calm, cool, and collected mentality. Because if you can trigger that adrenaline rush and that fight or flight response that most people are going to have when something happens, you can practice controlling it, and now everyone becomes more effective. There's value in chaos.
Fair enough. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, we haven't had one of these in a while, but I felt like, based off some conversations I've had recently, it would be perfect. So I want to jump into what grinds my gears. All right.
What grinds your gears, Cameron?
Interviews.
Don't say me.
Okay. I mean, it's always you.
It's not me.
It's always.
Come on.
Always.
See you later.
Right. You showed up on time rather than 5 minutes early. It was ridiculous.
What? I was early today.
But interviews. I was talking to an individual and it made me really rethink a lot of, or not really rethink mine, but analyze my interview process. Because I hear this every now and then. I'll be talking with a lot of people and they're like, I'm struggling to find XYZ for XYZ position and this candidate. And like everybody we're interviewing is, not XYZ quality, right? Or the quality we're looking for. And the second I start to ask them like their interview process, I'm like, holy crap, like this process is crazy. Like even back when I was hands on keyboard, senior staff application security engineer, like I probably wouldn't have passed that interview, right? And usually they're asking me these questions because they think highly of my opinion, or at least I think they do. I don't know. Maybe that's what I tell myself. But they're asking me and telling me about it, and
data point.
all right, yeah. And I usually throw it back at them and be like, maybe you need to rethink your process rather than the candidates, right? Because like if you're asking for super like specific things, and even if I was on the interviewing side, like a lot of these times I would tell them I would walk out of your interview or I would call it out and be like, why couldn't I learn this out on the like the job? I could probably learn this in like a week, right? And you'll talk to these, or at least I talk to these other hiring managers, and they're like, I can't find it, and I'm like, well, you're spinning your wheels here. You're looking for a unicorn, dude. Like you're
Yeah.
literally looking for
Change
a
your
unicorn.
expectation.
Yeah, like switch it up. Stop being so specific. I know you want somebody to hit the ground running, but that's not the reality we live in. There's so many technologies, and in ProdSec, at least in the AppSec side of it, there's so many different CI/CD technologies. There's so many different, source code management where you house your code. There's so many different tools that we use that it kind of just doesn't make sense. It's like you want to build and focus on other skills, right? Maybe a little more foundation, a little more something else. I know you're itching to chime in, so I'll let you.
I'm like fidgeting over here. You get me all amped up. Like, stop testing so much for the hard skills, man. That's the end of stop expecting 10 years of experience for someone that like is entry level, whatever it may be. I know that's a big gripe in this industry. Like, it's an
Oh
entry
yeah,
level position, but they
yeah,
want 5 years of experience.
yeah.
The expectations are off, right? Like, you want someone to have solved your problem already. Your environment's unique. Every company I've ever worked at, like, they're never the same. No one does everything by the book. Yes, we have best practices, but they're applied in a million different ways. They're best practices because they're open ended in general, and then it's left to people to apply in specific ways. So, no, they're not going to have all the answers coming into it. They're not going to solve your problem in the interview, although I've seen lots of people, I've done this myself, whereas this is a problem I'm facing today. How would you solve it? And I'm probing not only to get your opinion on the answer, because I have 12 people that can give me an answer already, but I want to see how you think through it and how it would fit into my team. And so now I'm not testing your hard skills so much. I'm testing your communication abilities. I'm testing your soft skills. And the hard skills can be learned. So I'd rather ask someone questions where they can illustrate how they have an appetite to learn, and they want to come in and hit the ground running, and that they can, and they have those abilities to grow quickly and adapt and jump into a new environment and start solving problems, but that they also know how to communicate with others. And the expectation is they don't just sit in the corner and operate by themselves, because that's not what we do. Like, you have to be able to communicate, and you have to be able to influence people to drive change. That's what security requires more than hard skills, I'd say.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like, we interview in the same way. We're looking for aptitude, passion, interest, and critical thinking, right? Can they
Yes.
think through a problem? I know for me, my number one thing when I'm interviewing is I always look for, I want to get them to say no or like, I don't know, right? I try to drill and
Yeah.
drill and drill because I want to hear that. The candidates who keep making up things, I'll even stop them and be like, I don't know what you're saying or how this makes sense to the
Yeah.
question, right? Like, are you making it up? And then eventually they'll be like, I guess, yeah, I don't know. And I'm like, all right, why didn't you just say that? Like,
You should have
literally,
led with that, because
right?
now I don't trust you.
Yeah, now I don't
Like,
trust you. Like, has this whole conversation now been, a lie, right?
yeah,
So,
I mean, that's an important skill though too, and I would put this in the bucket of soft skills. Of, you have the ability to admit when you don't know. There is literally no one in this industry who knows everything. It's not possible. I say I don't know all the time. There, I have people on my team, they're way smarter than me. That's why they're on the team, because I trust them and their opinion. And so I don't have to know it all. And surround myself with a group of people who, when you bring them all together, they they do have most of the answers. I say most of the answers because, again, no one's going to have all the answers. We'll go in and be like, I was talking to someone the other day and they're like, there's all these vulnerabilities. I'm like, that's not my problem. Bring Cameron into this discussion and get his take on it before you start moving forward. Like, that's his decision world. I'm not going to do it for him. And having that ability to say I don't know and deflect and pull in the other trusted people that you need to get to the right decision and the right answer is far more important. Stakeholder management, that's what we'll call it.
yeah, 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 it's true. I mean, everybody in my team who went through all my interviews. all of them just said, I don't know, you know, and I interviewed for passion. Everybody from my team is not a former AppSec person. They're either devs, they're pen testers, they're DevOps engineers. Some of them are one, a couple, I think a handful of them are like sysadmins. Like they're all
Yeah.
people who had the aptitude to learn, and they went through the boot camp, right? I gave them, you know, 60 days to train, learn, become productive, and now they're just learning machines. Any problem I throw at them, they're hungry to learn, take on a new challenge. They're experts in every different which way. I'm terrified for when they leave me. At the same time, I'm hyped. I know they're going to leave me and be like, boom, senior, and jump like multiple levels because
Yeah.
these guys, you know, they crush it.
Yeah.
So
The goal as a leader is to grow your people. But I mean, you were grinding my gears there for a minute where it was like these people that test for hard skills and people that don't say, I don't know, like the list goes on.
yeah.
But crazy interview processes, bringing it back around, they grind my gears too. Don't do it.
Yeah. What's the maximum amount of interviews?
Oh, man. That's a hard question. I always do 3, no more than 3. If you don't know a
Does
person's
that
ability to
include the
think and
HR? Like the HR one?
no. So 4 if you include the initial phone screen, I guess. Uh, but even then, so it could be 3 or 4, I'll say then, because I'll have I'll do the first round be like the technical round. If they do well, um, then they can, and it depends on the role too. So like I've done a technical round, I've done a sort of customer facing consulting, think on your feet, solve the problem round. And then they'll come to me and just be like, is it a fit for the team? It 30 minutes of chatting casually and then move on. Or I've done it where it's 3. It's like technical round after HR and then me, and that's it. Decision made. Like it shouldn't take, unless you're interviewing for like a C-suite position, like it shouldn't take more than like 3 or 4 discussions.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely had some candidates on my team where the first round, which was like the just like basic technical round, wasn't even the hands-on coding challenge. Like after that, my team was like, we should just skip everything and hire, right? And like we've done a few people where we've skipped the coding challenge because we were just like, we
Yeah.
know they can code, right? We know, like, we can see it, like, in the way they answer, they talk, their experience, right? Everything they're saying, even if they can't, we'll teach them, right? And then they came in my interview, and I was like, oh yeah, halfway, like, not even halfway. I think I was like 20 minutes in the interview. I messaged the recruiter and was like, do I have to do this full interview because I just want to hire them? And they're like, you can end it whenever you want. It's
Yeah.
like, cool. And so I told
I've
him on the call,
actually,
I was like, hey, I'm going to extend you an offer. Like,
yep.
I'm done with this interview. I'm happy with everything you've said. You're getting an offer right away. So expect
Yeah.
that.
I did that last year with somebody. It was in the interview, and I think I was only like 12 minutes in. I was like, look, I don't need to ask you any more questions. I'm gonna give you an offer. So what do you want to talk about? Or do you just want to end it here? And we just spent like the next 15 minutes just chatting about stuff. And I mean, that person was probably one of the best hires I'd ever made.
Makes sense, yeah. Alrighty. Well, I think we've kind of hit the end of this. So I want to thank everybody for coming to Coffee, Chaos, and ProdSec. You know, talking through some war stories, grounding it in reality. Hopefully, there was some interesting, useful tips. I mean, Kurt said he had some cool jokes and puns, so I'm gonna put him on the spot and make him
Oh
read one.
no.
So
I
let's hear
had
one.
I didn't make these up. I was bored, so I had AI write me some zingers, one-liners. Let's see. I gotta find it. Here's one. If security feels like a tax, imagine paying the ransom. So every time someone complains about spending on a new tool or a new person, think about what it would cost when you get breached. It's a lot more, I promise you. That's why people carry insurance. Let's see. How about another one?
Oh my
I
goodness.
don't know how I feel about this one, but we'll do it anyway. Fishing, like skee ball for cyber criminals. Low effort, high reward. I don't know. I think skee ball is kind of difficult. Like if you don't try, you're not going to score high and win, man. You got to get those tickets to get the prizes.
Oh, you're so cut
Yeah.
off.
All right, fine.
Those are,
I
those are
told
great.
you, I told you they were gonna be cheesy,
Oh,
like
they were
dad
so
joke level
cheesy.
things, courtesy of AI.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Smash that like, subscribe, whatever the button is. Thanks for tuning in for Coffee, Chaos, and ProdSec, and we do this every Friday. So unless I don't know, I break my leg or something, knock on wood, that doesn't happen.
Oh,
But
you'll still be here.
yeah, I might still be here just in pain and maybe a little loopy. But thank you everyone. Take care.
Stay caffeinated.